Yeah, welcome back to DXB today. I hope you're enjoying the show. Psychology, a part and parcel of the conversation, but a real focus on the power of persuasion. And in fact, to that end, our next guest has definitely honed in on her skills when it comes to the power of persuasion and, of course, psychology. Please welcome to the show Suraya Turk, the founder of Legal Circle, but also an instructor of Startup Navigator at the Entrepreneur Academy Middle East. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for waiting so patiently as well. I'm sure listening in to everything that your co-guests have been saying as well. How do you define the power of persuasion? And is it a power in its own right?
Absolutely. It's definitely a power in its own right. And as my colleague was saying, to me, the power of persuasion is the ability to elicit a yes, if we can put it that way, from somebody, or have them do something that you want them to do, but persuade them it was something they're happy to go along with and to do for themselves.
Are there specific emotions, are there specific qualities that lead towards persuasion or not?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about emotions, we have to understand that all humans are motivated by their emotions, whether they like it or not, whether they say it or not. That's how we process life. That's how we process information around us. So if we can appeal to their emotion, that's the first step in persuasion. And you can do this in many different settings. In fact, we do it every single day. We were speaking earlier. I mean, we're probably persuaded about 100 times a day, from when we walk into a retail store and what we buy, to speaking to our children, persuading them to do something we want, but make it, for their benefit, to your workplace and getting the people that you work with to do something you want them to do, to get the most out of your team. So in fact, in every setting, there's, we persuade each other every day, whether we're conscious or not conscious of it.
There are two emotions that I think about when it comes to persuasion. One is this fear of missing out on something, right?
Absolutely.
And the second might be a bit radical, but it's anger, right? I'm angry at this specific situation, or my shape or my ideas, whatever. So how do you think we can use these emotions in a good way to help people agree on something?
Yeah, well, the first thing is that you want them to feel any emotion. So whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, or whether it's fear of missing out, all of those are drivers that motivate somebody to do something. So the question is, what do you want them to do? Anger motivates and gets you to act. So if I want action from you, I can make you angry, and then I can elicit an action, or motivate you to act on something. If I don't necessarily want you to act, but I just want you to perhaps respond to me, or I want to sell you something, I want you to be engaged, then I might want to make you laugh perhaps, or so depending on what the outcome is, the driver will be a little bit different. And also we have to understand that we're all motivated, whilst it's by emotion. Some of us are more inclined to be motivated by the fear of missing out. Other people are more motivated by the anger trigger. And so this as well, has to play in how you motivate other people. But definitely eliciting any type of emotion will get you closer to what you're persuading them.
We see corporates applying these skills in their establishment a lot, and you're a lawyer by profession. Especially for the corporates, I would like to know, how do they establish trustworthiness and credibility in order to persuade?
Yeah, very good question. So credibility is one of the most important principles of persuasion, because people are less likely to criticize or to question authority and credibility. And so typically as a lawyer, and what we always try to do, whether it's in the corporate setting or otherwise, is establish that credibility, establish authority, establish the knowledge that we have in that particular setting or in that particular circumstance, or what we're looking at. And so when we establish that authority and credibility, we're less likely to be questioned. We're more likely to have buy-in from everybody that's listening to us, for example, if they're clients, or depending on whether it's a negotiation. And then that's the starting point to be heard, and now to bring them to the table to say, okay, what is the outcome that we're trying to arrive at, and how do we move in that direction? But credibility is one of the starting points after emotionally connecting to get you closer to that outcome.
Now, you've established yourself, and speaking of credibility, by teaching just endless students, and obviously as a lawyer, What are some of the messages that you convey to your listeners and students, also when it comes to the power of simplicity and clarity with your message?
Absolutely. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are raising funds from investors into whatever companies they founded. And so I'm always talking to them about how you do that. Now, one of the most important things is the power of persuasion, and in how they do that is through communicating clearly and concisely and effectively what it is that they want. So nobody has time to listen for endless hours. So you need to get to the point quickly and concisely. And the more concise and clear you can be, the more likely it is that the listener, or for example, in the particular case with the entrepreneurs, the investor says yes. So ultimately what you want from the listener or your customer or the audience is for them to say yes. And when you're clear and you're concise in your message, you're likely to get that yes sooner than later.
That power of persuasion that you mentioned there, I mean, the power of persuasion of a lawyer trying to convince a jury or a judge, is that any difference from the power of persuasion of commanding an audience at the same time, or are they one and the same?
They're absolutely one of the same. They're the same skills that we just apply in different settings. So we think about it when, as a prosecutor instructing in trials, what we were doing is having to lay down the entire case of the prosecution. And so it's presentation, it's articulating a message, it's showing the facts and pretty much getting your jury to see the facts as you see them. And so it starts with presentation, it starts with an opening statement. It starts with you building credibility throughout your entire trial process. You bring expert witnesses, you bring those for a reason. They're the experts. You're not going to criticize what they say about a particular piece of evidence, for example. And so the whole unfolding of that trial process is about persuading. And it's the same thing in any context. When we're presenting to an audience of 500 people, again, it's getting up, it's making an opening statement that's quick, that's engaging, that's connecting. And then we talk about credibility. Why am I on stage speaking about this topic? Because I'm credible, because I have the authority. That's the evidence. And then of course, what's the message and what is the outcome? But it's exactly the same, just applied in a different setting.
Then you nail it with that closing remark, don't you?
Absolutely.
I've seen the film. Yeah.
The closing remarks where you bring it all together, you tie it in nicely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've
And then
watched
the jury
enough courtroom
says yes.
drama to agree with everything you've said. Suraya, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for all of that. And
Thank
that was
you for
definitely
having
some great
me.
advice over there. Thank you so much.
Thanks so
Appreciate it.
much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Dina, I believe you have our DXB in 60.
We do. Leopold, we're going to get to know you just a little bit better before we let you go. In 60 seconds, we're going to see how many questions we can get through. So you can answer quite quickly and concisely based on Suraya's message. Clear and concise. All right, let's get that timer going. 3, 2, 1. Okay, Leopold, what was your first job?
A graphic designer.
Gravity sign?
Graphic
designer. Goodness. Okay, your motto in life and in work?
Motto.
Yes, like advice or something you live by.
Live with integrity.
All right. The best advice. Oh, I was going to say, if you could have dinner with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Leonardo da Vinci.
All right. A major goal you have for 2025?
Help more undervalued people have their voice heard.
The advice you most often give out?
What you do backstage puts you on stage.
And why Dubai?
Because it's home and I love it.
Okay, a superpower you wish you had?
To fly?
A book, movie, or series you would definitely recommend?
That's tough.
So many, I know. I have like 15 right now.
Hey, here's one book for you that you can recommend.
Oh, look at it. Ash coming in to sing.
Book, I want to recommend Dr. Robert Cialdini's Influence.
Okay. Well, time is up, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for being our guest co-host today. I like the idea of Leo and Leo at dinner together at some point as well. But thank you so much indeed for your time. And Suraya, thank you also for
Thank
joining us.
you.
Really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me.
These guys are going to go and discuss yet further. We are going to stick around. Why? Because we've got Delaj Pereira to play us out. Do stay with us.